AI DeepRacer, but we do want to bring in a special guest to talk to right now. I'd like to introduce everyone to DeBro. He is one of our winners from the March competition, has already punched his ticket to Las Vegas, which is why he is not allowed to compete tonight. DeBro, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me. Yep, great to be here.
DeBro, talk to us about the journey that you've gone through in DeepRacer. You started out with just a corporate competition that you scratch your head and goes, why not?
Yeah. May of 2019, Liberty Mutual ran an internal DeepRacer event, very similar to how Reinvent of 2019 worked as well. We had a 64-team lineup. And as it started to get more competitive, we started to learn more how to get our faster laps and hang in there each round. And the winning team, which luckily was the team I was in, Team Outrun, that got the wildcard ticket. That was one of the wildcard entries for that year. So we did well in the league, and I think having strong competition gave us a fighting chance in that championship too.
So you ended up then taking that, qualifying, showing up in Las Vegas, and really successful with that. Talk to me about the live in-person competition in Las Vegas.
It was definitely such a highlight of the entire year, because the difficulties that we ran in Belfast, Northern Ireland, was that we couldn't always run our models physically in person. So we would have to watch someone from AWS that was partnered with Liberty Mutual race across the sea in Boston. So we were able to do that ourselves once when we made to the top 8. So we flew all the way over there to race our model for a few minutes at a time, just to clinch the win, just to drive the car yourself, and because you know your model the best. So taking that, all to Reinvent itself was just mind-blowing, that all of a sudden you had your head-to-head battles, you had the best in the world, and you were almost training new models on the fly just to keep on top.
Going back to our race, AI DeepRacer was able to post a time of 1 minute 28 seconds, not enough to make it up into the top 10, but big congratulations to first-time youngest competitor on the pro circuit. Certainly looking for amazing things coming out of AI DeepRacer in the future. Now on the track, Dart Jason, Ryan's pick to make some noise. Did not finish the first time, but has made it past that initial box of doom. We'll keep our eyes on that. Let's go back, though, to Darren. Now that you've had a chance to have some success with DeepRacer, you've been able to actually do some things in the real world with the skills you've been learning. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. So DeepRacer was actually my first taste of any type of machine learning. So when we started to look through it together as a team, it became kind of reinforcement learning for ourselves. Learning these concepts was all about trying to get a faster time on the lap, because the more you learn about generalizing a model, avoiding things like overfitting, tweaking your hyperparameters, because the time you can save and train the model is time well spent, because you've also got a lot of competitors using the same account you do, so you can't always have free reign. So you're trying to actually optimize everything so you can bring that to the track. And once you started to learn more about the way machine learning works, you start to see that it's very similar to even supervised and unsupervised being the other two major categories. So taking things that I learned from the RL side of things, looking at TensorFlow Lite, even making things like simple diagrams or models in SageMaker, to the point where we are now, where we formed a small guild within our unit to actually look at these things together weekly and see what we can solve for the actual business cases we have.
I do want to cut you off here just for a second. We've got a time coming in here now of 33.241, which is provisionally 9th place. Dart Jason then would, assuming that nobody leapfrogs ahead of him, which is very likely, that would qualify Dart Jason to be one of our top 10 winners. All of our top 10 winners get a DeepRacer Evo, so looking great there. But DeBro, let's go back to talking more about now that you're able to kind of apply this. What does the future hold for you? I mean, what's next on your plans to be doing with these skills?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The idea is whether you want to go completely into a new type of career path, whether that be a data scientist or an ML engineer, I think those routes are a lot more feasible than they ever looked before you even got started into something. Learning such a vast area that seemed maybe too daunting, or how do I get started? These kind of services may be seen as gamification, but they're a great way just to get your feet wet. So going forward, I would really like this to be more of the same learning where you're trying to actually dive deeper into the data science behind these models and understanding that whether you can data mine your own model or different other types of models, that's where your starting process of any ML path will start from. So I think it's trying to just build on those skill sets and definitely work into something towards like the AWS ML certification as well.
I love that projection. I love where you're going with that. Checking in here with Dart Jason, does not look like we're going to improve on the time of 33.241. So that does put Dart Jason provisionally into the 9th place slot. Hopefully, again, we wish all the luck to Dart Jason, but that will bring his race to a close. Next up is Robin Castro. Finding success on the track is always interesting, but we talk about the commentator's curse. And DeBro, I need to give you forum to have you curse me out if it was, because the rumor on the street is I am personally responsible for you not holding the trophy last month. Your take on that?
It's partly true. I don't know what magic you can work, Blaine. So to kind of very quickly set the scene, the last month's March finals, I didn't watch the live stream. There's too much when you're trying to race yourself, but I rewatched it and saw that partway through my second run, Blaine, and I was also in agreement that it looked really good, and it just needed to get past this last box. And to be fair, you were both overly cautious and not trying to give the curse out. But when you said what you said about doing a good run, it hit the very last box, and then during this third lap, you very kindly just popped away. You just disappeared from the stream completely. And that was the only lap that actually counted for me to get the 3rd place slot. Second provisionally until JJ beat me out of it again. I don't think I was ever going to touch Carl's time, but it was just a good example of trying to take things a bit more stable in my second run, because you knew a bit more about what times you had to beat, but you also couldn't take that risk because 3 minutes goes very, very quickly on such a long course as well. If you get hit anywhere in the middle, you're almost losing 2 whole laps when you maybe can only get 4 in total. So trying to strategize what you need to do, especially if you hit something or go off somewhere that you didn't expect, you're just trying to adapt for those as well.
Yeah, talk to me about that model strategy. You've got a lot of different models, and you work with the community on talking about different models. This is not just an idle, casual thing with y'all.
Yeah, and it's definitely a good place to shout out as well to get more involved with the community. If you're just watching for the first time and you want to see more about it, it's not an impossible thing to start to pick up. You can get very easily started through the dev console. So yeah, for the DeepRacer.io site, you can definitely find a way to connect us. And through the community and things, the way we've looked at different models is a very much a gambit between whether you have a very risky model. If you've got one that's very fast and stable, then you've won, kind of like what we're seeing here from Roger Rabbit with the 20.9. It'd be interesting if you tried something any riskier now. But for others like myself that maybe looked at my first run, I thought I went too risky. But I think that was okay if you've got 2 attempts. You just want to see if it was worth the risk initially. And then when I found out, for me, it wasn't. I had to go back to something that I knew could at least get a more competitive time. And hopefully with that second lap, that run through over the start line, you can just shave another second or two.
And as we talk about trying to get over the finish line, we are hoping that Andy, AJM Model 1, can get around, can post a lap time. Just one final box to go. We've got time left. We just can swing around. But all of this, again, I'm seeing people in the chat room cheering Andy on, trying to get this going. The community for DeepRacer has something that has just happened organically. DeepRacing.io has been there. And DeBro, you've been part of that community. Talk to me about that total community that's been created.
Yeah, probably a bit biased, but I'd say it's one of the best communities I've ever been a part of, if not globally, for the point of view that it's all so competitive. There's a lot of prizes you can win. Getting a ticket to Vegas and re-events, those are huge once a year opportunities, but at the same time, everybody is so willing to share what they've learned to help others get better. When a new start comes in, we've got full sets of wikis and guides. We've extended the logs that AWS have opened as well. All these things, these Jupyter notebooks, you can just run for free. There's tips for if you wanted to get set up more locally. Lars as well has run his own cloud service, which is really useful. There's not anything you wouldn't be able to get really, really quickly, even just on the main thread. So all the knowledge is there. It just takes maybe the time to absorb it. It can maybe seem a bit daunting when things aren't working the way you want or you're not being as fast as others, but just bearing in mind that a lot of people have done this now for nearly 3 years, there's still a lot we're trying to learn every month and trying to incrementally improve on.
And I love that idea of improvement. And we're talking about improvement, and we're seeing Andy just not getting past this box. One of the things that you focus on specifically is the analytics around these boxes, the percentage to make turns. Talk to me about this kind of deep mathematical analytics that you've been doing on these model strategies.
Yeah, it's something I maybe never thought you would need as much of. When you're looking at the time trials, you can kind of get your feedback very, very quickly from the logs based on average time. But now that we're looking at different boxes that can change so randomly, you're actually looking at your percentage likelihood based on different corners, different sectors. Now that you'll see your racing, whether you'll get your green, yellow, or hopefully purple, you can start to strategize more that, right, I've got past turn 2 and 3 of the purple. I know I don't need to go as fast anymore. I need to clock in this lap time now and cross the finish line. And as you cross the finish line, then maybe you can start to go riskier again and see, can you grab another purple and try and get maybe a few greens. So even seeing a yellow, it's best just not to try and hit any type of object if you can. So when you're looking at analytics, you're trying to see what percentage likelihood for at least random or objects that you know are going to be very difficult. Is it better to go with something of a higher percentage that's more stable? I think it is now that we have a lot more objects and the time penalty is so high that hitting one or going off track really almost kills again 2 laps, even on any size of track, that someone who maybe gets 5 or 6 laps in a row can maybe just increase their speed slightly here and there once they know their model can handle those.
I love that attention to detail, which to me is why I was so excited to become part of DeepRacer. It just takes a few minutes to learn and a lifetime to master. DeBro, I appreciate you giving us some time here to talk about all the work you put into it. Any final thoughts you have to share with everyone watching today?
Yeah, just to wish good luck to the rest of the racers, but also to have just one final shout out for the DeepRacer, DeepRacing.io Slack community. It's very easy to join. You'll probably be accepted within seconds, and you can message any of us just to get you started and get you. Hopefully, we'll see you in a month or two here in another final. But thanks again, Blaine, as well.
I really appreciate that. Everyone in chat, give a big shout out to Darren. Thank you so much. You will see him in Las Vegas. It's been great having you here. Good luck there. And we continue our racing now. As we bring Ryan back in, we've got Robin Castro, who now has posted a lap time. Ryan, you've been watching while we've been talking. Tell me what you've been seeing.
Well, I think you guys have chronicled it where the updates needed to come in, and certainly seeing the improvement that we saw from Dark Jason. Yeah, it wasn't going to be enough to contend for a top 3 spot, but definitely puts him in contention to wrap up in the top 10. So definitely a nice improvement there. That's what Robin Castro is looking for. But what a great conversation with DeBro, one of the great characters in DeepRacer. And I go back to him at that final in person at reInvent in 2019. And my recollection of it, at least, Blaine, is every time it came down to the wire, he was the last one to go, and it came down to the last lap every single time. And he was standing there all stoic and just thinking things through analytically, as you heard from him. And the thing I appreciated the most, he talked about how open this community is. He's one of the fastest DeepRacer developers out there, and he's giving you, for free, his secrets here on this stream. And he was doing that to us there in person. We would interview him between his runs in Las Vegas, and he's trying to train his model, and he's trying to come up with his plans, but he still was able to illustrate the thought process so coherently to us in those stressful moments that's always stuck with me. So great to see him have the early success. He knows he's going to Vegas at the end of the year. That's a big advantage for him. And I think now he can focus all of his preparation on being as ready for that as possible. And certainly will be one of the ones to beat.
You talk about this openness, and you're right. It even surprises me. It'd be the same as showing up the morning of an IndyCar race and having all the pit crews share what gearboxes they're using, and what their race, saying, hey, this is our strategy, here's what we're going to use. What are you using? This community totally free, sharing the knowledge. I love what we're seeing here. Robin Castro, unable to post a time that puts him in the top 10, but a great month, lots of applause for qualifying and being in the top 16. And we move on to Mungie.
Yeah.